Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I didn't even look in the mirror to see if my ponytail was straight. I got flyaway hair. I am so grateful that I can just come in now and hit that live button and just go into the spiel, right? To have that conversation, to not even have a topic of conversation, to just come in and not worry about makeup and hair. And I would think that is pretty unique for a podcaster, for a podcaster that actually is in the visual, not just in voice. And lots of people, they come in and they've got the makeup this thick. They've got a perfect camera. They've got magnificent sound. And, I don't have any of that in all honesty. All I have is that gift of myself. And I'm going to call it a gift because I could be not here. I could be thinking to myself, Cindy, you don't have a decent camera. You don't have great sound. In all actuality, I do, but it's not set up for my laptop. I do all my filming on my laptop or on my phone. And, it's been a while since I've actually gone in and actually filmed something. In truth, I'd have to say, when I went on my last provincial park tour and I was doing those, provincial parks. I do Google reviews on Google Maps and I take a lot of landscape photos. I try to film my experience, but that September trip that I take every year, that's for me, right? 100% for me. I understand as a content creator and being a Google girl, being a YouTube girl, right? That I want to make content for YouTube. I want to be filming. But I also understand I'm not really in a position to go out there and spend a big chunk of money on a camera in this moment. But because I believe what I'm doing, because I am that example and that evidence for people, that it's just the fact that I'm putting one foot in front of another, trusting that what I need and what I want to do, what I want to bring to the table, it will manifest somehow. That everything that I'm doing, even though it doesn't look like what I expected it to, I'm no less pleased with it, right? I'm no less pleased with it. And I'm no less pleased with myself that I can come in here and I can have a message, that I can have a conversation, that I can build in that repetitiveness and in that consistency, that where I am now definitely was not where I was even a year ago, even 6 months ago. It is in that just showing up. It is in trusting myself, in trusting what I'm doing, in trusting in whatever or whoever is that backup for me, because every day the evidence is showing up in my life that all I have to do is show up. And in doing that, it's proving, that is the proof, that is the evidence that there is something or someone else in the background helping me along. My brand should have died 12 years ago. I think anybody, and I'm not going to say in their right mind, because in this moment I feel that I'm in my right mind, right? And maybe I'm not. But that says something in how I feel, in that comfortableness, that lack of hairy, scary, that maybe that delusional confidence, maybe in that delusional way that I think that I'm moving forward, right? But that's okay. For me, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm here, that I am creating, that I am being an example for others in not giving up, to just set those goals, pursue your dreams, and just appreciate the experience, appreciate the views, appreciate everything that's compounded in that experience and in that evidence that it can be done. That's my wish, and I'm not stopping until, at the very least, right? And I can't say at the very least one person, because I come across people all the time in this experience that I have that proves that, it's just in putting one foot in front of another, right? But I was going to say, I've been at this for 12 years. And lots of people would say, 12 years, and this is where you are in the moment? Well, you'd have to go back into some of that old content of mine. Hello, Earl. Hello, Earl. You're first in tonight. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and keeping me company. I hope your week is going well. We're already at Thursday. Oh my goodness. Today I went for a bike ride, a long bike ride. My backpack was packed, it was heavy, and I thought it was going to be a tough ride, but it was a beautiful, pleasant ride to my sister's place. I made her a homemade beef barley soup, had lunch with her with some garlic toast. It was absolutely amazing. Kept company, had some nice conversations, sat out in her balcony for a little while, did a little bit of housework for her, right? She's kind of laid up a little bit. She broke her foot in numerous places, and she's kind of out of commission, and she's getting bored sitting at home, right? My sister's had a pretty rough few years. I think lots of people in this world, in this moment, are starting to come out of those rough patches in their life. And I would like to think, in being that example, that it can be done, that, I kind of dragged a few people, right? Not kicking and screaming, but sometimes, it is in that good attitude when things aren't going good that, that light, that sunshine, that great attitude, the, the confidence that we're actually moving in the right direction, even if you don't see it going on, that sometimes it is in that positive that we can make it through, even if it is delusional. Who cares how you got through, right? If you put your faith in that one person who's going to keep you smiling through the rough patches. And this was something that I learned from my husband. Yes, I was married. I was married for 9 years um, to an amazing gentleman. And yeah, it was a miracle how he showed up in my life. And I didn't have to chase him down, he chased me down and he swooped me up. But he was in the military, and the one thing about my husband, he couldn't even remember garbage day 4. He couldn't remember. You had to hound his butt to get the front yard mowed. We lived on base. We had a military house on base, and they're very particular about how your grounds are supposed to look, right? And we were always getting these notices on the door, right? And I go, oh, Stoop, can you please get out there and mow the grass? And he would be just a stubborn butt, right? And he would just ignore these notices. And for me, right, I wanted to keep our reputation up there. But he thought it was funny. He thought he was sticking it to the man. His friends would come over and they would dive into our grass and they'd go, incoming, right? Or they'd go out. Oh, I remember this one time. One of our friends went out to my car to help me with the groceries and he got a cantaloupe out of one of my grocery bags and he threw it up in the air and he dived into my grass, which was about this tall, and he screamed, incoming. And he crawled in his belly like he was in the trenches, and everybody was just laughing and howling, including myself. It was frustrating, right? My husband could not remember the chores, but my husband was so positive. He was light in the darkness. No doubt. He kept people's attitudes at the very highest level. You know, people loved him for that, even if he was useless, even if he was a lazy bum, right? I'm not saying that he was, but quite often, right? He had his moments, but he was always a pleasure to be around. And when you're in the military, when you're going on tours, when you are going away on training, it can be down, right? You're missing your family, right? You're dodging mortar or, right, following rules. You're not having opportunities to go for your favorite takeout in restaurants and go to the bars. Lots of things that you miss. And it can bring you down. It can make you sad, right? And, my husband was always there to put a smile on people's faces. When it goes to rankings, right? Um, you didn't hang out with ranks that were beneath you. When my husband started, he was a private, right? They all start as privates. And, his friends were all sergeants and corporals and master corporals. Because of that exact reason, they loved to have him around, because he kept morale up when things weren't joyous, right? When things were run of the mill, when things were a chore, when things were frustrating, or when things were scary. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Tammy. And Earl's here too. Hello, Earl. And we have to appreciate that, because these are the people who are going to get us through the rough time. Not everybody has a positive attitude. Not everybody does. You guys hear me all the time say, sing in the rain, whistle while you work, right? Smile. Because even though you're not smiling for yourself because you're miserable, You have no idea of the people around you who could use that smile. And when things are not going good, right? When things are just falling apart, to have these people in your life could be everything. They're the ones that could pull you through that rough patch. And sometimes that's all you need, because it's in the rough patches that we give up, isn't it? It's in those rough patches that we bring other people down, right? And, just like, you know, people who come in and hang out with me. I've been at this for 12 years. I very easily could come in and do these lives and be all by myself. I've done it. Well, I don't do it anymore, but I did often come in here and do my lives and be all by myself. And, you leave your lives and you wonder, right? Is it worth it? Right? If nobody is connecting with the content, with the message, with me, why are you continuing to do it? It's because I'm not somebody who gives up. I'm somebody who believes in what I'm doing. And even if that message doesn't hit right this moment, doesn't even hit next week or next year, Google and YouTube are forever, right? It could be generations down the road, but that might be the one message that one person who just happened to come in and said, "Oh, who's this woman? What's she yapping about?" Right? And understand, get it. And it could come at that specific moment that was everything. That person could have been in that moment of giving up. And just sometimes all you need to know is that you're not the only person in it, that we're all in it. And even if you don't think you have something to contribute, you most definitely do. If even it's just this: I live behind a fire station. Get to your destination, be a false alarm, knock on that door. Somebody will come to that door and say, "Oh my goodness, he just coughed it up. We're good. Thank you so much." And they could go turn around and go right back to the station, right? We all have something to contribute. I use that analogy. Here's another one. We're sending out some good cheer. I'm really optimistic that it's going to be a false alarm, right? Or something fairly insignificant that they could just take care of the matter. Everybody is good and they could get right back to the station. In that little drummer boy, little drummer girl, and if you guys don't know, that's the little drummer boy when Jesus was born in the manger, right? No, the wise men brought all kinds of expensive gifts and spices and myrrh and, right, all kinds of things. And this little drummer boy wanted to give something, but he felt he didn't have anything to give. And he thought, well, I play the drum. I can play the drum, right? Maybe you can sing. Maybe you can whistle while you work, while you're working with your coworkers and somebody's just having the worst week ever and you've just brightened up his day, or at the very least, you took his mind off his problems. And you know how we can munch on things, right? How we can get on our head and we can make something small into something huge, right? And sometimes all you need is somebody with a little bit of good cheer, right? especially if you're in that moment of giving up, right? If you're in that moment of disillusion, if you're in that moment of total chaos and there's somebody there for you, right? That's the little drummer boy. That's the little drummer girl. And they're going to leave that experience that they're having with you, and you're going to feel absolutely amazing, right? And it might not have all sorted out, but you're going to feel 100 times better because that person let you cry on their shoulder, or they whistled while they worked, right? Or they lent an ear to you, right? They consoled you. They kept you company in that. And they're going to leave. And maybe they were having a bad day too. Maybe they were. But in that bad day they had, right? It's their nature to bring that good cheer. And you left that experience feeling better. And they're thinking to themselves, what's the point? What do I have to offer? And they didn't even recognize the lightness that they brought to you in that most uh, desperate moment that you were having. It's that idea that you put one foot in front of another. And I'm going to have to say too, what about yourself, right? What can you do for yourself? Can you run yourself a bath, right? Can you go get yourself an ice cream cone at the dairy shop, or right? Can you go down and walk down a busy street and just stop and chit chat with people? Can you go hug a tree, right? Melody. I'm just thinking of things that I like to do, right? But that's the idea that we do things for ourselves. And in doing things for ourselves, it puts us in a state of mind where you don't mind putting in the reps, you don't mind putting in the work. You're keeping your mind off of the, right, woisy me's, right? Because we all have those moments of woisy me's, right? My sister has had a pretty rough few years. It's just been one thing after another, right? And we are determined that we are going to start doing a little bit better as a unit. And, right, each one of us contribute something positive to that family, and that's the truth. Even if they contributed, we contributed that guck. We had something positive to offer. We were a unit. We were set up in archetypes, in different archetypes, to be able to hold up in whatever disastrous situation happened in our family. And if we could do it growing up, why are we stopping now, right? That we can hold ourselves up by holding other people up. And I don't mean to be preachy in that, but it was the example and the evidence for me today, to be able to cheer my sister up a little bit, not really having anything to offer. My sister is well to do, she doesn't need money, right? It was just the company. It was just getting her out of her head, getting her out of those noisy me's, to have a good conversation. That she doesn't have to worry when she's not feeling good that she's going to have to spend the day tomorrow cleaning her house, that it's been taken care of. How much did that cost me? It cost me nothing. And I got so much out of it, right? And then we grumble and complain, woisy me, right? We can always, in just making a choice, bring change into our lives. And that's the truth. And sometimes it's just interactions with others, right? I was that person a lot of times, it wasn't by choice because, again, in my family being archetypes, it was my job to kind of hold the fort quite often, be responsible in taking care of my sisters. But my mother worked full time in the hospitals. My father was home very rarely. He was a commercial fisherman. He was gone for months at a time, right? And yes, people in this day and age, they'd be in trouble if they left their 9 or 10-year-old kid to babysit their sisters. I had three sisters, right? And take care of the house. And but that's what we did. That's what the 60s and 70s were like. We all had our roles to play. And my second youngest, our second oldest sister, the one underneath me, she had it pretty rough. She was golden child. And we go, oh my goodness, golden child doesn't have any problems. Oh yes, they do, because they are meant to be trained to be the breadwinner, right? To be the one to hold the fort, to be responsible, right? My sister is pretty well to do, but I don't think truly that was by fully her choice, because it was that responsibility that she grew up in, that she was going to be the matriarch, that she was going to be responsible for taking care of the family. I was the oldest, technically, right? It's usually the oldest child that responsibility is laid on. But I was given a different one, right? I was given a different responsibility. And we don't normally appreciate these experiences. But when you stereotype somebody's position in their life or in their families or in their communities or in their church or in their school, right? You have to look deeper into that, because truly there were good times in my life. I didn't have to be responsible because that was my sister Tracy's job, right? And so there were good moments in my life along with the crappy stuff that we have to endure in that. But my sister endured no less than I did. And that was a lot of responsibility to make sure that all us kids were okay. And to this day, she finds it to be her responsibility. She has a very high sense of control. Like when I say control, we're talking, right? I come from a dynamic family. I do. Narcissists, borderlines, empaths, codependents, enablers. Oh my goodness, I could go on, right? And that messes you up. That stuff carries right up into your adulthood. And here she is, all laid out, having the worst past few days that she's probably had in her entire life, right? And she still feels lost without that sense of control, like she doesn't know how to be a patient. She doesn't know how to be that person that can be cared for, right? Because she spent her whole life being dependent on, right? That she was the person in charge. And that's a lot of responsibility in that, right? A lot of responsibility in that. And, we never know. We stereotype all the time. I'm guilty too, right? You stereotype and you label people, but you don't know what's going on underneath. You don't know what's been going on in their lives. You don't know what's going on right now, because that person could be concerned about you because you're not feeling good. And right, they're doing everything to put a smile on your face. They're doing everything they can to help you out of a sticky situation. My husband would be the first one to volunteer if anybody was moving, right? He was right there. What do you need me to do? Right? He was always first. And there were gifts in that, of course. He had lots of friends. People loved having him around. He probably got away with a little bit more than what he should have because of it, because there is tolerance in that. But that great energy is what you want to be around, and you have to appreciate that. But you also have to appreciate that, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, that negative, not to write them off right off the hop, that you want to be able to, you know, sit there and comfort. It's not misery loves company. You get out of that, right? I had to get out of it. I took it as long as I could out of loyalty and love, but there's only so much you can do before it takes you down, right? And these were lessons that I had to pick up along the way. And I'm so grateful because some of those lessons came across my path by people who are not even here anymore. And one day I'm not going to be here, but maybe 30, 40, 50 years from now, maybe generations and generations from now, somebody might come across and be inspired or kind of have a moment of, oh my goodness, right? I do matter to somebody, right? I do have something to give, right? Why am I stressing out so much? I'm still going to be here tomorrow, right? No matter what, I'm still going to be here tomorrow, right? Of course, that's not always the case. The first thing that popped into my mind is when I went for a bike ride today to my sister's house. I went to pick us up a couple of coffees and I got on my bike and there was somebody coming out of the parking lot. He stopped and I wheeled my bike across the street. But as I was going across the street, I heard this big crash and I looked, and that car that had stopped for me as because he wanted to go out of the parking lot onto a main drag, he hit another biker. He didn't see that somebody was coming down the sidewalk on his bike. And that person, I never seen anybody get hit by a car on a bike before. And I was riding my bike, so it made me a little bit nervous for a few blocks. But this is good because he was the example for me, right? Not a, I would appreciate that I needed that example, of course, because right, it's through these kind of experiences that we live vicariously through other people that we get to appreciate and learn lessons much better. And I wouldn't wish somebody to get hit, but if somebody's going to get hit, I want that lesson to say, oh my goodness, that could have been me, right? In not paying attention, that could have been me. The car or the bike was absolutely just destroyed. He was under the car, but he got up. I don't know if it was just the energy of what had just happened to him, but he got out from the car. He dragged his bike back into the parking lot. The gentleman in the car, he went back to the parking lot. I asked if he needed a witness to it, right? And he said no, he was good. I crossed another street to another side. I stood on the corner just to make sure everything was okay. And the driver was already whipping out his wallet and divvying out money to him to cover the bike. And the guy was checking him to make sure that everything was okay. But that was an experience, right? We just don't learn from our own experiences. We learn through other people's experiences too. And I think that's pretty amazing. And I've messed up so much and I've showed up here, you know, every day, 6 days a week, I'm here. And in those 6 days a week, probably every live show, I misstep in some way, but it's in that repetitiveness, it's in that consistency, it's in trying again the next day that we get better and better and better. And if you want to see a comparison, just go back and see one of my podcasts from 10 years ago, right? And watch and look at the difference of where I'm at now compared to where I was 10 years ago. And where I am right now, it's not even going to look like where I'm going to be 10 years from now, right? And I'm going to be so grateful that I'm going to be that baby boomer in 20 or 30 years and I'm still showing up here, right? That's going to be pretty cool because lots of people, right, they give up. Be sitting, I see them every day sitting out in the bench, just out in the front of the building, just getting the sun and the fresh air. And that's their life. They do that day in and day out. And yet I have this unique and curious life that I put together. And whether or not, it goes anywhere, the joy is in the pursuit of it. The beautiful landscapes, the beautiful experiences that are built for me, by me, and shared by the few people that do share it with me too, right? So I think it's pretty cool. It is just in putting one foot in front of another and being that example for others that they can do the same. Not everybody wants to show up live 6 days a week, right, you guys? Right? You got your own thing to do. But how amazing that you have your own thing to do, right? You should have an interest, a hobby, and something that you work on, whether it's a job or the garden. But the garden could be a hobby too, right? But if that you choose your garden to be your work, then you grab another hobby because you know that you get overwhelmed sometimes by that one thing. And instead of going off and doing something silly and delving into a coping mechanism that isn't good for you, or having so many things going on in your life that you can't get one thing accomplished, if you have those three things, you just jump between those three things all the time. And you can expand in that, right? Just in those three things. And absolutely amazing what you can create with your life. I would never have guessed 10 years ago that I would be sitting here still doing what I'm doing. And that's the truth, right? But we all have something to contribute. And it would be pretty amazing if somewhere's down the road somebody got something out of something that I got from somebody else, because that somebody else is going to get credit for it too, right? I just passed it along. It belonged to somebody else, but I passed it along. But in that mix, I'm throwing my own stuff out there, right? And somebody might pick up on it and pass it to somebody else. And you know what? I'm going to get a little bit out of that too. Okay, let me come back here a little bit and see what's going on. Um, Cindy is going live. Oh, is going to live to be 114 years old. That's the goal, Tammy. That's pretty good that you remembered that. Um, but yeah, it's not to say that I will live to be 114, but you set those goals. You put one foot in front of another, and you just enjoy the views, you enjoy the experience, and you take care of yourself in that. And which is a good lesson for me, Tammy, because I got the word from my new doctor that I may have to go on high blood pressure pills, right? And you guys hear me all the time how grateful I am for my good health. And I was kind of a little bit bummed out with that and thinking I won't be able to say that anymore. But that's not true. I will be able to say I'm grateful for my good health because I took care of myself, right? I gave myself what I needed. And that is the biggest project that you can have in your entire life. I could have easily said, don't worry about the doctors, right? And then go on one of my killer bike rides, right? And have a heart attack. Could easily have happened, right? I am stubborn in some ways, and we're none of us are excited when it comes to having to go see a doctor, right? But if you are responsible, if you can treat yourself like you matter, right? You could treat somebody else like they matter. Maybe they'll treat you like you matter. Just like a big circle that goes all the way around. And that's how we get better in this world, right? As a small man, each one of us has that opportunity, if you choose, to have a voice, to have a say, to be that example, to be that evidence for somebody else, right? And that's true. Okay, I didn't mean to be preachy in there, but I got my own message in there. And it was only through the experience that I had this afternoon. It was lovely. It was life is full of lessons daily. We go through our day to days and we don't even pay attention. We think today was the exact same thing as it was yesterday. Life is boring, nothing new, nothing exciting. But if you really pay attention, there are all kinds of lessons, right? We miss so much. You guys hear me talk about the breadcrumbs and the serendipities and the coincidence. They're happening all the time. We're just not paying attention because we're two in here or two out there, right? And we're not focused in any way, right? Um, Life is better after death. I don't know. I like being alive, Earl. Right? I love life. Right? It was something that I picked up off my father. My father had congenital heart failure. He got diagnosed that he wasn't going to live for more than a few years. He was able to put 25 extra years onto that prognosis that doctor gave him. But he woke up every single morning thinking today could be my last day, right? But he was determined to make each day the best day that he possibly could, right? He filled it up with amazing experiences. And I'm grateful that he dragged us kids, right? Dragged his family along for that adventure. Of course, he took his piece of the pie that we weren't a part of, but that wasn't our interest. That wasn't our hobby. That wasn't our work. That was his. That was all his. And each one of us has that right to create the best life for ourselves as we possibly can because each one of us is unique, but we're still part of a bigger community. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Life is better after death. I don't know about that, Earl. Right? I keep chugging along. There's so much. If I'd given up, so many times I could have just given up. But then I think of all the amazing things that I would have missed out on, right? Because it doesn't stay bad all the time. In that mix, beautiful things happen, beautiful experiences, beautiful gifts, beautiful relationships, they happen. Those gifts are sprinkled out all the time. Sometimes it's not in that consistency, but I am, just like with my sister, I am optimistic that we are going to get her back up and running. And, she can have that control, right? But she has to understand that maybe that control is only going to be over herself, right? Over her own actions, her own thoughts, and her own emotions. And she could be super creative and she could create an amazing life, right? She's got lots of years in her. She's not a giver upper either. And she's had enough on her plate that lots of people would have given up on that, right? But that comes from my dad and his own experience that he was the evidence. He was the example for us kids. And if nothing else, right? We're going to put one foot in front of another and we're going to create the best life for ourselves as we possibly can, right? And that might not ever be achieved, but it has been many, many times. It just doesn't always stay. It doesn't always stick. But when it does come into our lives, we have to appreciate it and recognize it when it does come into our lives and appreciate it for sure. Yeah, life is amazing. I wish that for everybody. But like I said, it just might not hit home in this moment. Maybe it'll be another 10 years when my message is good enough that it might hit perfectly, land perfectly somewheres with someone who really needs that message, right? But I might hit my 114 and I'm out of there. And 115 years from now, somebody got that message in a perfect moment in their own lives. I believe that, right? I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't believe that. And in the pursuit of it, I'm going to enjoy the landscapes. I'm going to enjoy the experience, right? I'm not going to worry about what my hair looks like, or if I'm wearing makeup, or if I'm saying the right thing in the moment, because I know tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another chance, right? Gone with the Wind. I got that one from. Okay, let me come down here. I know some people in the US are trying to do things naturally or organic. Those who do not want to take a lot of prescriptions for beets and cinnamon to lower blood pressure. Beets and cinnamon. I'm not a big fan of cinnamon, but I do love pickled beets. I do love pickled beets. But that's some good advice there, Tammy. I've got a jar of beets in the fridge right now. Maybe I'll have beets with my dinner tomorrow. Um, oh, you never. Oh, no, I wasn't saying that, Earl. It just the way it was worded there that life was better after death, right? I don't want to die. Right? Give me a wheelchair, strap me to a board, strap me to a tree. If I'm breathing, uh, I just wanna experience, right? I really do love life, and life isn't always easy, and that's the truth, right? That's the truth. Life isn't easy, but it is that idea that you create the best life for yourself as you possibly can, right? And in that, recognize, pay attention because, right, you're not the only person in the pot, and somebody next to you might be in a worse state. And in their experience, there might be lessons for you, but there might be an opportunity for you to feel like you matter by helping somebody else out in their crappy moment, right? Because we all have those moments. We all do, right? And sometimes they stick around longer than they should, and that's the truth, and that can drag you down. But if you can have somebody, right, to hang out with, put a smile on your face, make you feel good, right? You all get through it together, right? Okay, that's my good cheer there. um, yeah, I didn't. It was the way it was worded there, Earl. But I'm glad you corrected me on that. I had a new windshield installed in my Lincoln, uh, right at 3 months ago by satellite. Um, As long as my little truck don't leave me stranded, I'm good. Yeah, that sucks. That's happened to me a few times, right? I always make sure when I had those beaters that I always had CAA, which is um, road assistance, right? It was cheap. It was like $10 or $12 a month, but it gets you through, right? And if you get yourself an emergency, then you know at the very least somebody will come out and get you and tow your car home for you. Yeah. Thank you, Earl. I appreciate that you say that. Yeah. He says my thinking is right. I have my moments, but then I have my moments, right? I truly feel bad for your sister, Cindy. I do pray for your sister, Tracy. I appreciate that, Tammy. She's coming out of it. She was really excited because she fell again, right? Oh my goodness, she gets into these accents. She knocked out her teeth and she was really scared. She doesn't like doctors. I've mentioned it before. And she had to get some emergency fix up with her teeth because she knocked her teeth, right? And she went to the dentist yesterday and she went through it amazing. She says, I had no idea why I was stressing out so bad. It was nothing. And they were so nice to me. And she had her dental plan. So she was all happy that it didn't cost her a lot of money. And so, I was really happy for her because that is the evidence for her because we sometimes get so in our heads and we drive ourselves crazy and we make ourselves depressed, right? And then we drag that around with us and we make other people feel that way too, right? And it just becomes like a chain reaction, right? What's that saying? Omar Karam. We are all just but one link connected with each other, right? There is a Omar Khayyam. Yeah, he was a prophet, Oriental prophet, and he was super smart. I used to have his book. His Some of his poems were some of my dad's favorite quotes. Some of his favorite poems, and you know, I had a book, and there were a few that I really appreciated, right? Because when you really think about it, he really was a philosopher, and he knew what he was talking about. Um, but I appreciate that you put in a little bit of good cheer that you prayed for my sister Tracy, right? She's doing great. We're all pitching in, right? It's we just all take care of each other. That's what family is about, right? And yeah, I'm pretty sure that everything is going to be a whole lot better now, right? It's just a waiting game, right? So now she's got to get a cast on her foot on Monday. She's still in her boot because she got a wound that couldn't go into a cast, so they had to wait till the wound was healed before they could get her into a cast. And then she's got to go to the dentist for cleaning, but she's not even worried about it, right? She's not even worried about it because her experience yesterday was so amazing that she's not even worried about it, not even stressing about it. And so, in that experience, like I said, there are always lessons in the experiences, and we make small things so much bigger, right? And we have to remember what we think about is realized. And that's the idea. If you think about it, think about it, think about it, you just make it worse, right? Uh, yeah, that's interesting. I do like beets, Tammy. I'm gonna try that. Yeah, but I was feeling bad because you guys know that I say it all the time how grateful I am for my good health. I've never had a bleeding nose. I've never had a headache. I don't normally suffer aches and pains, right? I used to have Charlie horses all the time, right? But that was my own fault for not drinking enough water, right? And I don't get many Charlie horses anymore, but that doesn't mean just because I have to go on blood pressure pills that I have to stop saying that affirmation because now I'm not in good health because I have high blood pressure that I'm going to take the medication that I'm needing for it and it's going to regulate my blood pressure and we're good to go and I can still be grateful for my good health. I'm 65 years old, right? Right? I couldn't be like I was 16 for my entire life. It would be a nice thought. That would be some darn good evidence for everybody if I was like I was 16. But if you go back 10 years ago and watch some of those videos, you would see the change in me, not just mentally and emotionally, but physically, right? I look at those videos and oh my goodness, I look so old. I look older than what I look like now, right? But sometimes it's in our attitude, and sometimes all the time it's because we're paying attention and we start taking care of ourselves, right? Uh, aw, yeah, you got to keep those funds there for the vehicle, and you need your truck too, right? For you and your brother to be able to get around. You're still working, Tammy. Uh, I do send good cheer, Cindy. If I lived closer to you, I would visit you all. And I bet you'd just be shining on all of us. We'd all be shining on each other, and we would all get through, wouldn't we? We'd all get through. Okay, you guys. I think that's enough tonight. I was just tired. I didn't have a topic of conversation, didn't even attempt to. I came home and I just couldn't even take in any lectures or perspectives or anything. And I just went into junk stuff online. I put on hold one of my favorite adventures. I don't know if you ever watch his content, Tammy. His name is Harold Balder. He's a Norwegian. He's from Norway, but he's an adventurer. He goes to different countries and he's so personable. He interacts with the communities in these different countries he goes to. He finds unique adventures like, hiking the Himalayas. He crashes people's houses, like he'll knock on a stranger's house and invite himself for dinner and stuff, and he gets to know these people in these different countries. Sometimes they don't even speak any English, most of the time they don't. He's so funny. He's absolutely charming. His videos are so entertaining, and he just posted one today. His videos are also very long. This one is probably very long. How long is it? An hour and a half. So I still have my own live podcast to watch because I take in the lessons for myself because I know when I come in and I start yapping that there's always a message for me too. So I always come in and watch my live for myself. But after that's done, I am going to come in and watch some Harold Boulder. Check him out. Uh yeah, check his content out. He's a great adventure. If I had the money to be able to travel the world the way he does, right now he's in Mexico and he's from Norway, and I don't think he's ever been to North America. He usually does a lot of places in Asia. He likes really interesting outdoor adventures, and that's why I started watching him. Oh, and he also makes a little budget of money because his audience donates money to him. And then when he goes on these adventures, he finds poor families and he gives them money, right? He'll invite himself, like when he goes to these houses and invites himself to dinner, then he'll leave a big pile of money for them. Or he finds somebody, a little family out on the street selling wares lots of time, or vegetables and stuff, that he'll stop and give them money. When he goes in and he goes for a street haircut or something, he will tip a big chunk of money. He'll always take interesting bus rides and stuff, and he buys gifts for his audience. He's just a super interesting, fun guy to hang out with. Yeah, I love adventuring with him. I don't technically adventure with him, but vicariously through his YouTube videos, I adventure with him. So I've got it on here, and he's staring at me right in the moment, right? I haven't started the video, but I just wanted to set it up so that when I was ready, all I had to do was hit play, and I would miss his next episode. Okay, you guys. Harold, 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 Boulder, Baldr. He has, oh my goodness, he has millions of subscribers too. Uh, he has 2.38 million subscribers. He has a lot of subscribers. That's how good he is, though, right? He's a great cameraman. He's funny. He's lots of fun. And he loves history, too. So when you tie up the history, the traveling, and the Mother Nature, you've got me, right? Because those are my three favorite things in the whole world, right? Is history, Mother Nature, and traveling. Yeah. So we'll see what he's up to. We'll see what he's up to next. But an hour and a half, and his videos are always like that, 1 or 2 hours long. Yeah. But it's not something you can fast forward through because you'll miss something interesting. But yeah, you might like him, Tammy. You might like him. He's one of my favorite adventurers out there. Okay, here's our word. Learning is the process that prepares us for the future. What was I talking about? Right? I don't worry about it in this moment that I don't have all the fancy tech. I don't have fancy cameras. I don't even have a vehicle in the moment. I don't have money to buy plane tickets and travel the world like Harold Balder does. I'm not even sure if he has that kind of money, but he figures it out. And that's the idea. We all have to figure it out. Learning is the process that prepares us for the future, right? And we have to take that action. We have to put one foot in front of another, because if we don't do that, we have zero chance, right? Yeah, that's the idea. We're getting better and better all the time, and we need more people to be the examples, to be the evidences. And that's the message that I'm passing along for tonight. You guys, that's my good cheer for tonight. We're going to keep it short and sweet because I am physically and mentally done for today, right? I'm going to watch some brainless entertainment, my prerogative tonight. I'm going to give myself that gift, get myself another grape and Sprite drink for the evening. Oh, so good. And I'm going to get my pajamas and just enjoy the rest of my evening. But I will be back tomorrow, you guys. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. And I'm not worried about it at the moment. Okay, you guys, have a great night, and we'll see you